June 15th, 1215. A misty morning on the water meadows of Runnymede, where the Thames flows lazily between Windsor Castle and the ancient hill fort of Staines. Tents flap in the breeze, horses stamp on the damp grass, and armored men mill about with wary eyes. At the center, under a sprawling oak tree, King John of England, 40 years old, dark-haired and brooding, clad in a fur-trimmed robe, faces a phalanx of rebel barons, their chainmail glinting under surcoats emblazoned with lions and crosses. Led by Robert Fitzwalter, a stern Essex lord dubbed Marshal of the Army of God, the barons present a great charter on parchment, its 63 clauses etched in Latin. John, cornered after weeks of standoff, affixes his seal with a reluctant hand, granting liberties that curb royal power. No taxation without consent, protection from arbitrary arrest, freedoms for the church. Cheers rise from the barons' camp, but John's face twists in resentment. This is no willing reform, but a humiliation forced by rebellion. The document, soon known as Magna Carta, isn't just a peace treaty, it's the seed of constitutional government, a blueprint limiting kings and inspiring laws from England's Bill of Rights to the U.S. Constitution. Welcome to Vestige Files, where we unearth the pivotal moments that shaped history. This is the story of the Magna Carta and the birth of constitutional government, a tale of feudal fury, legal innovation, and the dawn of rights that restrained rulers and empowered the ruled. To grasp this foundational pact, we must rewind to the 11th century, when Norman conquest forged a kingdom where kings clashed with nobles over power and purse. In 1066, William the Conqueror, Duke of Normandy, crossed the Channel and crushed King Harold Godwinson at Hastings, claiming England by right of conquest. William's Domesday Book of 1086 catalogued lands and taxes, centralizing control under a feudal system. Kings granted fiefs to barons in exchange for military service, while peasants toiled as serfs. The Normans built castles like the Tower of London to dominate the Anglo-Saxon populace, blending French customs with English laws. William's son squabbled. William II Rufus died mysteriously hunting in 1100, succeeded by Henry I, who issued the Charter of Liberties in 1100, promising just rule, church freedoms and limits on feudal dues, a precursor to Magna Carta, though often ignored. Henry's death in 1135 sparked anarchy under Stephen of Blois, whose weak reign saw barons build unlicensed castles and extort locals. Peace returned with Henry II in 1154, founder of the Plantagenet dynasty, who reformed justice with assize courts and common law, employing itinerant judges to enforce royal writs. His Constitutions of Clarendon in 1164 asserted crown control over the church, clashing with Archbishop Thomas Becket, murdered in 1170 by knights misinterpreting Henry's frustrated outburst. "Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest?" Henry II's empire stretched from Scotland to the Pyrenees via marriage to Eleanor of Aquitaine, but family revolts marred his rule. Sons Henry the Young King, Richard, Geoffrey, and John rebelled in 1173 to 1174, backed by their mother. Richard I, the Lionheart, succeeded in 1189, spending only 6 months in England during his 10-year reign, crusading in the Holy Land from 1190 to 1192, and fighting Philip II Augustus of France. Captured returning from the Third Crusade, he was ransomed for 150,000 marks in 1194, 2 to 3 times England's annual revenue, burdening subjects with taxes. Richard died in 1199 besieging Chalice, arrow-wounded, leaving the throne to his brother John, aged 32, nicknamed Lackland for scant inheritances, and Soft Sword for military failures. John's reign began auspiciously. He divorced Isabella of Gloucester, marrying Isabella of Angoulême in 1200 to secure Aquitaine. But conflicts loomed. The church, under Pope Innocent III, a formidable canon lawyer elected in 1198, demanded reforms. In England, the barons, about 200 major landholders like William Marshal, Earl of Pembroke, a loyal knight born around 1147 who served 5 kings, Robert Fitzwalter, a powerful Essex baron, and Eustace de Vesey, a northern lord, chafed under royal demands. The economy relied on wool exports and agriculture, but weather woes and overtaxation strained resources. John's early years saw triumphs. In 1202, he captured his nephew Arthur of Brittany, a rival claimant backed by Philip II, at Mirbeau, later murdering him in 1203, alienating allies. But disasters followed. Philip II seized Normandy in 1204 after John's failed relief of Chateau Gaillard. Built by Richard, the loss costing John his continental heartland and earning scorn. To fund reconquest, John imposed scutage, shield money, in lieu of service. 11 times between 1199 and 1214, far more than predecessors, entallages on towns, alienating merchants. He exploited wardships, selling heirs' marriages for profit, and fined widows to remain single. The interdict crisis erupted in 1207. John refused Innocent III's nominee, Stephen Langton, as Archbishop of Canterbury, favoring John de Grey. Innocent excommunicated John in 1209 and laid England under interdict. No sacraments, bells silenced, dead buried unconsecrated. John seized church lands, profiting 100,000 marks, but pressure mounted. In 1213, facing French invasion backed by the Pope, John submitted. He surrendered England as a papal fief, receiving it back as vassal, paying 1,000 marks annually, ending interdict, installing Langton, a scholarly mediator born around 1150. Langton, arriving in 1213, convened councils pushing reforms based on Henry I's Charter of Liberties. Barons convened at St. Paul's in August 1213, demanded restoration of ancient rights. John's 1214 campaign in Poitou failed disastrously at Bouvines on July 27, where Philip II crushed Otto IV of Germany and English allies. John's barons refused aid, citing no feudal obligation overseas. Returning defeated, John demanded another scutage. Northern barons like de Vesci and Fitzwalter refused, forming the Northerners, or Army of God, by late 1214. Defiance crystallized. In January 1215, barons met at London, armed, demanding charter confirmation. John delayed, seeking papal support. Innocent III, as overlord, backed John, excommunicating rebels preemptively. But barons pressed. On Easter-April 1215, they assembled at Stamford with 2,000 knights, renouncing fealty May 3rd. Led by Fitzwalter as Marshal and Geoffrey de Manville, Earl of Essex, they marched on Northampton, failing to take the castle but capturing Bedford. On May 17th, they seized London. Citizens opened gates, welcoming them as liberators. John at Windsor lost control of the capital. More barons defected, isolating him to the southwest. Negotiations ensued. Langton with Marshal, a pragmatic loyalist who advised John, and Pandulph Verraccio, papal legate, shuttled between Windsor and Staines. On June 10th, at Runnymede, a neutral meadow, preliminary talks drafted the Articles of the Barons, a list of demands. John, with few options, his mercenaries delayed, treasury low, agreed to terms. On June 15th, he sealed Magna Carta, Great Charter to distinguish from a smaller forest charter. Witnesses included Langton, Marshal, Henry de Bohun, Earl of Hereford, Serre de Quincy, Earl of Winchester, and Hubert de Burgh, Justiciar. The charter's clauses, 1 protected church freedoms, 12 to 14 required common council for taxation, 39 promised no free man arrested or deprived except by law of the land or peer judgment, a seed of due process. 40 vowed justice not sold or denied. 52 to 53 restored lands seized unlawfully. A security clause, 61, formed a council of 25 barons to enforce compliance, authorizing distress if John violated terms. Copies dispatched to sheriffs and cathedrals. 4 survive, 2 at British Library, 1 at Lincoln, 1 at Salisbury. But peace proved illusory. John, humiliated, appealed to Innocent III, who annulled the charter August 24, 1215, as shameful and demeaning, excommunicating barons September 1215. Rebellion reignited, the First Barons' War. Barons offered crown to Prince Louis of France, future Louis VIII, Philip II's son. Louis landed May 1216, capturing half England, including London. John, campaigning, lost baggage train, including crown jewels, in the Wash. October 11, 1216, dying of dysentery, October 19 at Newark Castle. His son Henry III, aged 9, succeeded, advised by Marshall as regent. Marshall reissued Magna Carta November 12, 1216, at Bristol, omitting contentious clauses like 61 to appease moderates, winning back barons. Louis's forces, weakened, defeated at Lincoln. May 20th, 1217, by Marshall, age 70, charging helmetless, and at Dover. The naval battle of Sandwich, August 24th, 1217, saw Hubert de Burgh destroy French fleet. Louis renounced claims via Treaty of Lambeth, September 1217, receiving 10,000 marks. Henry III's minority stabilized under Marshall, who died May 1219, succeeded by de Burgh and Langton. In 1225, facing tax needs for Poitou, Henry reissued Magna Carta definitively, with the Charter of the Forest, restoring woodland rights, pardoning offenses. Sealed voluntarily, it gained legitimacy. Langton, at 1,225 councils, emphasized charter observance. Henry confirmed it repeatedly in 1237, 1253, 1265, amid baronial pressures. Simon de Montfort's 1258 provisions of Oxford further limited King, leading to Second Barons' War, 1263 to 1267. De Montfort's 1264 Parliament included commoners, a democratic precursor, but he fell at Evesham 1265. Edward I, Henry's son, confirmed Magna Carta in 1297, 1297's Confirmatio Cartarum, tying it to taxation consent, entering statute rolls. The Charter's 63 clauses dwindled. By the 19th century, only 3 enforceable: church freedoms, 1, London liberties, 13, due process, 39, combined with 40. But its spirit endured. In the 17th century, amid Stuart absolutism, Sir Edward Coke revived it in his Institutes, 1628, influencing Petition of Right, 1628, against Charles I's arbitrary taxes and arrests. It fueled English Civil War, 1642 to 1651, Cromwell's Commonwealth and Glorious Revolution, 1688, yielding Bill of Rights, 1689, affirming parliamentary supremacy. Across Atlantic, Magna Carta shaped American colonies. Virginia Charter, 1606, echoed liberties. Massachusetts Body of Liberties, 1641, cited due process. Revolutionaries like John Adams invoked it against Stamp Act, 1765. Declaration of Independence, 1776, echoed grievances. U.S. Constitution, 1787, and Bill of Rights, 1791. Fifth Amendment's due process, Eighth's ban on excessive fines drew directly. Supreme Court cases like Gideon versus Wainwright, 1963, traced to Clause 39. Globally, it influenced Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, Article 9 mirroring no arbitrary arrest. In Britain, 800th anniversary 2015 saw commemorations at Runnymede, with statues and exhibits. Surviving copies like Lincoln's toured, Pope Innocent's bull displayed. Human impacts profound. John died reviled, buried Worcester Cathedral. Langton, dying 1228, rests Canterbury. His mediation preserved charter. Marshall, greatest knight, buried Temple Church, London. Fitzwalter, pardoned post-war, died 1235. De Vesci perished 1216 on crusade. Magna Carta birthed idea of law above kings, proving collective action could bind rulers. John, Barons, Langton, their clash forged governance's framework. Was Magna Carta a revolutionary limit on power, or a feudal bargain evolving into constitutional cornerstone? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this saga of seals and swords sealed your interest, hit that like button, subscribe to Vestige Files, and ring the bell for more stories of history's turning points.